A little bit about me. I'm now 35 years old, and I had my first web design company when I was still in school in 1997. I'm a certified designer, which in German we call Ausbildung. It's like working on a job with a certificate at the end. And I have a bachelor degree in media computer science. Last year, I worked as a CTO for a fintech startup, because I come from Offenbach, which is a town near Frankfurt, and in Frankfurt it's all about fintech these days, so naturally I would be working at one. Before that, as I was kindly introduced, I worked at .hiv, which is a charity that tried to sell domain names under the top-level domain .hiv for a good cause. We tried it, we sold some, but not enough. So today, it's not working as intended. You can still buy .hiv domain names. For instance, I have one, cto.hiv, and the money and the surplus from that goes to a good cause, but it didn't explode like we expected. Currently, I'm unemployed, so I'm looking for a new team, and also that's why I'm here, because I have the time to come to conference. You can follow me on Twitter, Coder by Heart, and there's also a link to my blog, which, some enjoy reading. I usually write there about software craftsmanship and leadership, which is important, which are important topics for me, besides working remote. And why am I able, or why should I be talking about remote? I've been working in distributed teams since 2010. And since 2012, I'm working 95% of my time away from the company that employs me. And also to give you context, usually in smaller teams. So on the previous talk, we had the question, how big are your teams? So who of you is working in a company that's larger than 100 people? So that's not few. So for me, it's just a dozen people. The last team, we had 14 people. And on this picture, you can see my desk at the co-working space. I don't work from home, because at home you have so many distractions, like doing laundry, the cats, the TV, the refrigerator. I cycle to a really beautiful co-working space in Zentrale, in Bornheim, which is called Die Zentrale. From the drei Fragezeichen, the 3 question marks, a famous German audio or book, kids book. If you're in Frankfurt, just come by. We have great coffee and say hi. I love to show you around. So I do have experience working remote, and we won't get rid of remote work anytime soon. Who of you has colleagues already working remote, at least part-time? Yeah, that's basically everyone. So we have that already, and this will even increase in the future even more. And I myself love to work remote. For me, that's the only style of work I'd like to work in the future. And for us and for me, I'd like to make this experience working with remote colleagues as best as possible. Because, I mean, who doesn't want to work on a place like this? That's my wife and me. Last year we went to Poland to do some, vacation time, but also to work from there for a little while. And who wouldn't want to have happy and highly self-organized colleagues, which is something remote enables? And who wouldn't want no problems finding new hires? That's all great about remote, but there are definitely new challenges that are created by having a remote team, and I want to talk about these challenges. The 3 most important challenges I think need to be tackled. So let's start right away. The first one is the missing water cooler. So the water cooler stands or is a symbol, or the water cooler, this is the big water bottle somewhere in a central location where everyone once in a while comes to and gets this water. And how important this is can be seen at this picture. This picture shows the atrium in the Pixar headquarters. Pixar is, Pixar. And Steve Jobs was once the CEO of Pixar too, and he changed the plans of the architect who was to build this new building, the new headquarters, and placed all the facilities, like restrooms, cafeterias, meeting rooms, in a central place. The initial design was to have every part of that building have their own, but he decided it's so important for people to occasionally meet by accident on a regular time to enable new connections, for information to spread, for, talk about problems, so talk about my problem and have a colleague listen in and join in and help me fix my problems. Also, these accidental meetings also create a sense of belonging, because then you start to learn and know people, and that's so important. And obviously, if we work in a remote team, we don't have a physical location we can share. So we need to start working out loud. This means that you start talking about what you are working on and what your impediments are. So that everyone in the company has the chance to, get an information of what's happening in the organization, and also connect the dots. So I know someone that can help you if you have a problem, or let's work together on this one, or we will be talking to the same client, and next week, we should go there together. And so you need something to help with that, and the obvious choice for me is using a team chat like Slack. Who doesn't know Slack? Okay, do you know IRC? Okay, so it's a group chat system which has meeting rooms, which has a rooms per topic. It's at the place I worked, we use Slack, and we used 3 different kinds of rooms to simulate a water cooler. We have rooms that organize around a profession. We have a room for developers, we have a room for marketing guys, we have a room that is concerned about hiring. Those are long-lasting and will stay in your organization forever. Then we have project-specific rooms. As I said, maybe we have a website that's a project, or the iOS app is a project, is a project for us. And in those rooms, the people in that room are concerned with that project. And then we have usually some short living rooms that are usually there's a conference next week, we need to organize some stuff, or we have an all-hands meeting that needs to be organized. And with all that rooms, there's a lot of notification going on. If everyone starts to pushing out, I'm working on this project, I finished talking to that client, or I have made this presentation ready, let's look at it. There's obviously the amount of information that flows in your direction is increasing manifold. So you need to have a tool, and that what Slack is and can do, which enables you to filter these notifications. You need to be able to decide what is interesting for you. In Slack, that's super easy. You can selectively enable or disable notifications per channel that you're in, and you can even change the notification settings on your mobile device. So if you're traveling and not on your desktop, you obviously don't want all the notifications you get there. And even if you're not want to use Slack, which is perfectly fine because your data will go to the United States and there are different problems with that, if you're picking a tool, or if you're selecting for a tool that enables group chat in your organization, please make sure that it offers this kind of granularity for notifications, because this is also one of the biggest problems, too much notifications. Group chat, or Slack, is asynchronous. That means, well, I type something in there and maybe someone answers, maybe someone an hour later, or a few minutes later, and it has another problem. It has a low bandwidth. Most of the communication that's happening is nonverbal. So people, or some say more than 70% is nonverbal. So if I only put the text in, I'm missing out on a lot of information when I'm talking to a colleague. So you need, besides a text chat, you need video chat. And which I not only use to, well, take discussions that start in Slack off to video chat, because it will go faster and you will come to an agreement much quicker, but I also do regular meetings in video chat. I call them check-ins, and we have 3 check-ins per week. The first check-ins you probably all know is the daily stand-up. Daily stand-up is everyone goes together and says, what am I working on? What are my impediments? We do this at 12 a.m. Because that is our time where everyone's awake. Even if we live in the same time zone, we have different biorhythms, so it's not guaranteed that everyone is willing and able to work at 9 a.m. in the morning. Anna said something about this, that you shift your dailies. Yeah, I think that depends on your team. But the idea is everyone comes together, everyone of a profession. So all the developers, all the marketing guys come together in separate video chats and just say, okay, what am I working on today? Spread the information, and what are my problems? Who do I need to talk to solve my problem? And we reserve another, so that takes around 15 minutes, and we reserve another 15 minutes after our daily for one-on-one video chats. Everyone knows this and blocks this time for ad hoc video chats to clarify problems and find a solution, and after that, everyone can go and work on their own term again. Besides the dailies, we have once a week, we call it a product meeting. It's on Monday after the daily. It takes 1 hour or 2 hours, and it's about, well, what's our overall progress on the product? In which way do we need to change or adapt our backlog, and what priorities have changed? I'm not a fan of Scrum, so it's more for us, or where I work, I usually implement something that's more like Kanban, and it's perfectly fine for every work to have a different priority. That's the way it is, at least in startups. Yeah. You need to find a way to deal with these changing priorities, and I am a developer, so I hate changing priorities, but they won't go away. The third kind of meeting is we also need to bring everyone together once in a while. The daily is very, very technical for every profession. The product meeting has more experts and has a wider, well, not so technical depth. And the meeting with everyone we do is the weekly lunch. At Tuesdays at 1 p.m., we have a lunch together. So even if it's virtual, everyone gathers together and has his meal ready, which is a great icebreaker, because you can just say, what are you having there over for lunch? You can easily start a conversation, and also it's not so smelly, because you only have your stuff. And that's actually how it looks like, or it could like in your office. And what I really like about the setup, this is a large flat screen, and that brings people in together in a size that's basically represents their physical size. So you see them like you would see another person, only in 2D, and they are also loud. So this adds something that's, a physical presence, which a small laptop like this one wouldn't do. Try that, that's great. For the lunch is not only about eating together, but obviously is to create those random connections. So it's not a strict, okay, we ask those 2 questions and then we finish, or it's all about the product, but it's open for random connections. We do this by just going around department by department and telling what happened this week, what's important, or also to give appraisal to your colleagues. A colleague did someone. He's able to talk about what he achieved for him and what this means for the company. there's a lot of technology going on there, and you will need to invest in good cameras and also good equipment. There's no question there. Good internet connection is also important to work from remote. That's also something to keep in mind. If you're going remote, it changes your priorities towards what's important. And technology will fail, no question there. And that's why I brought some pro tips for you. And my first pro tip for you for having a great remote work experience is always have a fallback ready. A fallback for us, usually the case was some of our colleagues didn't have a good internet connection. So for him, it wasn't that easy to go on video chat. So we prepared for that occasion, and we had a telephone conference provider ready where everyone could just dial in. And ready means it's written down in the wiki. If a problem arises, I can just post a link and we are in that telephone conference in 1 minute. There's no talking about, let's try it again, or wait till it comes back. Just do it. If your video conference provider is down, obviously you could try something else. We used, I love Google Hangouts, but we weren't able to use the Google accounts. So we used GoToMeeting, and if GoToMeeting was down, we used Talkie. So there are a lot of alternatives for the same medium, but usually if you have a problem with the internet connection, switch the medium. A lot of tools to use also. That's why my second pro tip is define a communication escalation process. What I mean by that is that's not the fallback. So if this doesn't work, go to there. But which tool are you using for what? Because if you have Slack, and you have a task tracker, and you have video chat, and you have email, and it goes on, everyone has a phone, you need to take the time and define which is used for what. At my place, we used Slack for day-to-day communication, for these, what I talked about, working out loud. We used a task tracker, Asana, I wouldn't recommend it, but we had to use it, for defining who needs to be doing what and when. That was the place where you agree on what will be done. And we used phones just for emergencies. So we also defined what an emergency was. So it was clear that if there is a little bug, that's not an emergency. An emergency is if the website is down. And that's, yeah. So we had it defined, and that helps a lot to clarify how you will be using these tools, and it needs to be made available to everyone in the company. Obviously, write it down in the wiki. But the most important one for working in a remote team is that actually everybody in the company should be remote at least some days a week. Because the usually setup you have is that your CEOs or the core people, whoever they are located at one place and go to that office, and you only have a few remotees. And it's really something you need to experience for yourself, being away from that water cooler you have in that office and feeling how it is to be, well, disconnected from the chatter in the kitchen, yeah? Or having bad video images of your bad cameras of your coworkers, or, well, don't have a good audio equipment. Which, as I said before, we have a great co-working space in Frankfurt. Just, if you want to try, just look out, scout out a co-working space in your city. That's just a few meters away, probably, but it totally changes your perspective. Or try working from home. Or maybe visit someone of your remotees. That might be an idea too. Which brings me to the next important challenge you have. You need to make sure that if you meet, or the few times you actually meet with your coworkers, should be spent as a quality time. you will be putting so much effort into bringing everyone together, organizing for them to come over, for accommodation, for travel. So you should use that time for activities that greatly profit off physical presence. So don't let them do, well, business as usual, just come to us over for 2 days and work on this project, but take their time and do retrospectives, 2 one-on-ones, 2 activities together. Because I think that's the main topic about having remote teams. You can only make it work if you learn about the quirks of everyone, not about like what they are professionally good at, but how they react. Because if we are all working in creative industries, and creativity is all about communication, and I can't solve problems with someone if I don't understand him fully. And that's why my 5th pro tip is plan every hour of a get-together. So make sure that they feel welcome at your location, that they are picked up at the airport or at the train station, that it's obviously where they will be staying. And also don't force everyone to stay together, because remote work tends to be attractive for introverts. And introverts usually don't like to, well, be put in a place with other people, even if they are colleagues. They need their alone time. So for every activity you plan, also give them a nice way to opt out, or, well, another way to recharge the batteries. If you're coming together, then there's also a good idea to celebrate successes. For me, that's the 3rd most important challenge. That not really has something to do with remote work, but the work style you have if you are in a remote team is usually towards a really independent team. They are all very self-organized, they work on their own, they know what to do, and you create an environment where everyone can change your product, whatever it is, every day. So we have releases every day. And if you have an environment like this, you have no way more of telling when did we reach a specific milestone. And so you lose the chance to actively say, stop, we now released something really cool. And you as a manager need to keep track of this. You need to look back and say, okay, it has been now 2 months or 3 months since we actually looked at the work we did in the past and celebrated it. Because celebration is something your people will never forget. That's something so special, and that's me celebrating the release of the public launch of our top-level domain. And even if I needed to wear silly glasses and a silly hat, it still felt great to do this with my colleagues. And that's why if you can't bring your people together, for instance, or they are worldwide distributed, then my last pro tip for you is send everyone a cake once in a while. It's not that big effort to organize for them to get a cake at their office where they are. It just needs a few phone calls. There are already services like Go Butler. You can just phone up or write an SMS to, and then we'll organize for everything. This takes just a little amount of your time, but enables you in a distributed team, if everyone has a cake at some point in time, and you can come together via video and eat the cake together. And that sends it doesn't need to be a cake. I have a sysadmin who I sent 4 crates of Club Mate. He was probably much happier about that than a cake. But I think the message is clear. It's these small things that you need to change, or you can also do remotely what you used to have in a physical location where someone brought a cake and everyone could have it. It needs some effort, but for me as a team lead, that's also part of my function, to make everyone happy, not only in their professional, work environment, look that they have great equipment and know what's to do and what's expected of them, but also that they feel happy, and happiness comes from a lot of different things. So that's all I have today for you. Are there any questions? I can repeat? Okay.
Okay. What do you think about the recent trend in my mind that we can see that there are some companies which are really embracing like remote work, like, I don't know, GitHub or companies like that, and many other companies which seem to go like absolutely the other direction, like Yahoo, or I don't know, also companies like Facebook who just build huge complexes and put all the people there. What's your opinion on that, or what do you think? How will this develop?
Yeah, and that's probably one of the reasons why this talk exists. I see that people get frustrated in remote teams, and that one of the reasons is that they think I can just take a person and put it someplace else and don't change anything else, and this will work, but it won't. And what you talked about, Facebook built a huge office. They have like 2,000 desks on one open floor, and for me, that's a horrible idea of a workplace. But I'd say that only roughly 15 to 20% of the people or workers are able to work remotely. So we will never be working in the time where everyone is remote. Because people are social animals, and they find a lot of happiness from seeing other people in a physical environment. So there's still need for companies that are on location, that bring everyone together. So that will not change in the future.
And I have a second question. You said that you are or were a team lead. Did you have at any time the experience that in a team, especially if you have like one customer, that there is one person who is on location and always has to visit that customer and is basically responsible, that the remote people, because they are more easily able to like duck their heads, or so that they don't feel as responsible because they never have contact with the customer. Do you have ever problems with that, or how would you deal with such things?
No, I wouldn't. So the question is, if you're remote and you're not meeting the customer face to face, do you feel less responsible? I didn't have those problems, but if you have, I'd try to make for the remotees to be available during the meeting, and also be present, or connect them with the client and let them talk with the client for, I don't know, special if there's a problem or they need information or so. So that won't be a problem, I think.
Okay, do we have more questions?
I mean, all approaches are super nice if everything is going well. If everybody is happy, then you can have beautiful offices or work remote and everything is fine. Do you have some examples when things were not going out super nice, when two colleagues had a conflict, or you had to spread bad news, or a colleague resigned, or how you handled these things remotely?
Oh, I had the ability to bring everyone together. So we had bad news at my last place, and we brought everyone together. But for instance, I did one-on-ones remote, and one-on-ones usually have a good part where you say, oh, you're doing great, and have a bad part where you say, okay, you did something wrong. And if you have a connection already to your colleagues, which you build by bringing them together occasionally, you have the understanding of each other that you can talk about problematic topics. But I'd see the connection to a person totally changes if you have met him for the first time physically. So if you're adding remotees to your team, that's something you need to do at first. Bring everyone together and let them spend a few weeks at your company and learn everyone. learn everyone to know, learn about the projects, and that's an activity that requires so much bandwidth, and that's hard to achieve via video calls. So try to make that possible, that they are, when they start working at a company, are on your location. Okay. If there are no questions, those are the links to the slide. I'll post them right now. Again, please give me feedback. That would be greatly appreciated. We have a few minutes. I have a bonus slide. And I want to introduce you to something I use that's a developer, I call it the Developer Happiness Questionnaire. Who of you have read the book First Break All the Rules? By no one? Okay. Doesn't matter, basically, but just for me it's a really important book because it's based on literally millions of interviews of managers and employees about what makes their workplace good for them. And it's done by the Gallup Institute. They are doing this for now 25 years, I think. And they boiled down all their experience they had from these interviews to 12 questions that you can use to find out how they highly correlate to a good output, to a low turnaround rate, to highly satisfied customers. And those are questions like, do I have the possibility to do my best every day? Do I have the equipment and tools I need to achieve my best every day? Are my colleagues trying to deliver quality work? Is someone at work interested in me as a person? And those questions, they have such a great power as a conversation starter about what do we need to change in our organization for the employees to be more happy, more satisfied, more connected to everyone. And I do this questionnaire once every 2 months. It's anonymous, so I use Google Forms, which can't be tracked by us. No one has the ability to find out who actually submitted it. And we do it all at the same time slot. So it's also impossible to find out, oh, that was this colleague that answered it by night, so we know it's probably him. And then we create a median of all the answers. They are rated between 1 and 10. So one of the exciting questions is, if I have a friend, would I want him to work at our organization? And yeah, I'm looking at the time. We have 5 minutes. Yeah, okay. And the thing about this, I do one-on-ones regularly, every 2 weeks, but a one-on-one still, they filter out that information they give you, or the feedback they give you, or there's not enough time. So that anonymous questionnaire gives you even more and even tougher feedback about how you're standing as an organization. And then I use those answers, those accumulated answers, say we have 4 points for that hiring question, yeah, and we'd like to have something above 6 maybe, 10 would be perfect, but that's impossible. And then during the all-hands meetings, we talk about what do you think why we are rated that low? What could we do to improve it? And as everyone sees it on paper that it's bad, everyone in the room is usually interested in making it better. And that's also I have those individual questions in my slides, and I like to do it for you first, for yourself, and you will see how great these questions are, and then do it with your colleagues. That's an awesome, powerful tool I'd really like you to use. So thanks again for listening. I think there's lunch right now. Yeah.
Yeah, we have lunch right now. But first, thank you, Markus. What a great first conference talk.
Thank you.